Hey guys, it's Jessica. Thanks for watching today. I am going to show you how to make this You Are My Sunshine greeting card. It's bright and it's sunshiny, and you can tell I am wishing for summer here. It's a little cold still here, but summer will be here before we know it. So to get started today, I just used this Tim Holtz stencil, which I absolutely love. This is like a sunburst or rays of sunshine, and it works for so many different things. I just love it. So I'm just using some washi tape to tape the stencil to my cardstock. And once I have that done, I have 3 colors of distress ink that I am using. The first one is Scattered Straw, and I'm just going to start applying at the base of the sunburst. I'm using kind of circling motions at first, and then I sort of started doing a little bit of just sort of smearing it on there because it wasn't getting dark enough, so I got a little bit more liberal with my application there. Then I moved on to my next color, which was Mustard Seed, and I'm doing that for the middle layer of my coloring there with the distress inks. Then I will move on to my final color, which is Wild Honey. And I use that for the outer portion of this sunburst. And I actually started at the very outside because I wanted to have that be the darkest. And I didn't want to get the really crazy mixed colors that wouldn't blend well in the center. So I started on the outside so that the darkest and most concentrated colors would be on the outer layer. And then I just blended that, and you can see most of the time I'm starting off of the stencil and blending inward so that my distress ink gets evenly coated and I don't have any big splotches. Now I did intentionally get a couple of dark places just so that it would look a little more distressed and not be blended so evenly the whole way. I wanted it to kind of be a mottled look, so I did add a couple little splotches there. So there I went ahead and took my stencil off, and you can see that's the result on the paper. It looks pretty cool against that stark white. And I'm just using my paper trimmer to get it down to the card size that I want. I'm going to use this as almost the entire card front, so it is the entire width of the card, so it's 5.5 inches long across, and then it is shorter than 4.25 tall. So I'm going to use those the pattern paper that I showed as well as the black cardstock, and I went ahead and cut that little town border from Lawn Fawn out of the black cardstock, and I used the wavy edges border also from Lawn Fawn to cut that patterned paper. So there I have my multi-medium mat that I'm using as an adhesive to apply the cardstock to my little border there. And it does take just a second for it to adhere, so you have a little bit of wiggle room. If you maybe don't get it quite positioned correctly, you can sort of slide it around a little bit at first. So then I went ahead and applied more multi-matte medium to the base there to get it attached to my card base, or I should say my card front. And I'm just making sure that's adhered the way I wanted it. And then I went ahead and used my scissors to cut off what was hanging off of the edge. And there was no, specifics there. I just kind of did it by eye so that it would look, like a finished edge there instead of having too much. Then I have my black cardstock here that I'm going to trim down to 5.5 long and about 1 inch thick. So I didn't want to use an entire sheet of paper to back that, so I'm actually just going to adhere those strips to the top and the bottom using my tape runner. And this tape runner is actually probably one of my favorite purchases that I have made. It has saved me so much time. I used to actually do all of my gluing with like a glue stick. And it took forever and I wasn't getting good results. And so this was a great purchase for me. So there I'm adding my second black strip to the bottom, and I really liked the way that this framed the card and gave it a finished look. Since I didn't have any sort of stitch borders or anything like that around my white piece, I really liked the way that the black really gave it a finite sort of look. So then I have my stamp set that I chose to use for my sentiment, which is from Neat and Tangled. That stamp set is called My Sunshine, and I love that script font there. I just thought that was so pretty, so I will go ahead and ink that up. I'm going to use the Memento Tuxedo Black ink, and I will just place that where I want it and then go ahead and ink up my stamp. And this tool that I'm using is the Hampton Art Stamp Perfect version, I would say, of the Misty. And I have had good results with it so far. I did a review and comparison of this. I'll link to that video in the description if you'd like to check it out. But it's working well for me, so I'm pretty happy with the purchase, and especially for the price point. It was a good steal. So there I've gone ahead and inked up my stamp, and it didn't quite stamp perfectly the first time, so I went ahead and inked it up again. And I did get the results that I wanted that time, so I'll go ahead and clean my stamp. And I'm just using a baby wipe to do that. And then I will go ahead and use Versamark watermark ink to apply that to the stamp. And what I'm going to do here is just heat emboss clear embossing powder. So I'm using that Versamark as a nice sticky ink to apply that embossing powder. So here I'm opening up my embossing powder, and this is a clear embossing powder, as I mentioned, and I'm just hanging that over a coffee filter and applying my embossing powder directly to my card front. Normally I would have used my anti-static powder tool, but I cannot find it. It's still MIA. If you watched my last video, you know that I was searching and searching for it, and I could not find it. So I may have to end up ordering a new one, but hopefully I'll find it before too long. So you can see, since I didn't have that anti-static powder tool, that I did have to use a paintbrush to get some of the excess embossing powder off of my card front, but it didn't take too long. So it's not a huge deal, but it's always easier to have that tool than to not have it. So if you don't have one, I'd recommend getting one. It's a really cool thing to have. So there I've got my heat tool out, and I'm going to go ahead and apply heat to the card. And here's where the magic happens. You can see it turn black, and I just love that. It's like a magic show. So I keep my heat tool moving so that I don't burn my paper or warp it too badly. I did have a little bit of warping, so I hit the back with the heat tool a little bit to help, and it wasn't a big deal at all. So there is my heat embossed sentiment, and I will go ahead and attach that to a card base, which I'm going to cut right now, and that is 5.5, and then once folded it'll be 4.25. So I'll just use my bone folder to score that. And then you will see I actually use a little stamp on the back. And it has my Etsy shop on it, but mostly I just like the really cute little logo for A Card Day's Work, which is that cute little bird with the envelope. I actually had this stamp made. I think I got it from Vistaprint, but it has my little website on there, so I like to stamp the back just so people know where my cards came from. And then I'll adhere that to the card base, again with that tape runner. And then once that is where I want it, I will go ahead and work on the interior of the card. So what I like to do for my interior is to hand ink it. I just think it gives it such a special touch, especially when it can match the outside of the card. It's just a little bit more finished, in my opinion. So what I do is... oh, and before that, I actually forgot about the sequins. So I put the original card right there to begin with, just so I could get the same placement since I was making a duplicate for the video. And I went ahead and placed those sequins on the card. And I had a little trouble getting them to stay where I wanted them to. I think my fingers were a little sticky from the Versamark ink. That stuff is pretty darn sticky. So there I've got my sequins where I want them, and I'm using my quick stick and my multimedia mat to stick those in place where I need them. And that pesky little one down in the corner keeps moving on me. But this tool is really great, this quick stick. It's got kind of like a rubbery, sticky sort of point there that I'm using, and it lets you pick up the sequins. And then it's low tack enough that it won't keep sticking to them for the most part. Now, if you do run into where, you can't get it off, that little clear piece, usually I think people keep it stuck in the other end and they can just turn it over, but you can use it to press the sequin down onto the page. It's great for like chunky glitter and things like that, things that are really tiny and that you can't really get your finger onto. So there I go, like I was saying earlier, with my distress ink for my center or interior piece. I'm just starting from the outside on my craft mat and blending inward so that my darker color is on the outside. And I do know that some people prefer, a really solid look for their distress inks, but I actually really like the way it looks when it's a little bit mottled and uneven. I just think it looks really cool and it adds a lot of texture. So that's my preference. I know a lot of people don't like that, but for me, that's what I think looks really cool, so that's what I do. So you can see there's a little bit of more white space towards the center and some kind of darker spots around the edges, and I just really like the way that looks. So there I have my mini Misty, and since my Hampton art still had my other stamp, I just decided to use the Misty so I didn't have to worry about changing things. And there I realized my card my insert was not actually the right measurement, so I had to cut a little bit off, and then I just went back and darkened up the edges so it didn't look so weird that there were, dark concentrated ink splotches on all the sides except for one. So I just went back and inked that up a little bit more. And now that I've got that completed, I went ahead and put it into my mini Misty, and I'm going to use that cute little sun and also the second part of the sentiment, which is my only sunshine. I love how it ties together with the card front. That just makes it super easy to have a finished and professional sort of card that all ties together. So now that I've got my stamp where I want it, I went ahead and inked it up. Again, I'm using that Memento Tuxedo Black ink. I find that that's kind of my go-to ink for mostly everything. Anytime I need black ink, that's the one I grab for, so it works pretty well for me. Again, I didn't get perfect results the first time, but that's the great thing about these stamp positioning tools, is that you can just go ahead and re-ink and reapply the stamp. You don't have to worry about lining it up again and making sure that you're directly over it. I'm awful at that, so these are my lifesavers. So there I went ahead and got my stamp finished, and I'll go ahead and apply some tape runner to the back of that and put it on the inside of my card. And that is the completed card. So there you have it, start to finish. Just, my take on this cute little sunshine card. Like I said, I'm wishing for summer, so sending warm vibes your way. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, give it a big fat thumbs up and be sure to subscribe to my channel for more videos like this in the future. Thanks so much and have a great day.